Hello, and welcome back to Lacrim Noir. Before we begin, feel free to leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I always enjoy reading them. If you're drawn to dark haunting stories, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, settle in, clear your mind, let the outside world slip away, and let's begin. Story 1. The smell always comes back first. Musky rose mixed with warm vanilla. Carried on the smallest breeze the way your perfume used to follow you when you walked past me in the hallway. Even now, when you're not here, it shows up in my head like it's real, like the air itself is trying to remind me what I lost. I keep replaying us like a watercolor painting left out in the rain. The colors run, the shapes blur, and everything we were turns into streaks sliding down the canvas. I try to hold the picture still, to keep it from dissolving. But it won't stop. It never stops. The emptiness where you used to be is a pain my chest can't carry for long and my mind can't explain. I ask the universe the same question again and again, begging for one clear answer. Where did we break? If I could find the exact spot where our love snapped, maybe I could walk back to it. Maybe I could fix it with my own hands, tie it together again, stitch it like a torn seam. But the world doesn't reply. It just gives me silence, cold and wide and heavy, like standing in an empty room after a funeral. I'm not even praying for forgiveness anymore. I'm praying for something bigger than that. I'm praying for a reason to keep moving, because I've been balancing on the thin line between living and giving up. And the worst part is this. My feelings didn't end when you left. They didn't shut off like a light. They stayed on, burning in me, even when everything else went dark. That's why I drove. My mind told me to leave, to get away from the apartment, to get away from the places where every object still looked like you might come back for it. I told myself I'd just take a ride, clear my head, come back calmer, come back better. But you used to warn me about my car, that old clunker I kept refusing to take in. You always said if I didn't keep up with it, it would fail me when I needed it most. You were right. It happened on a back road far outside town, miles away from any gas station or house lights. My engine started coughing and jerking like it was trying to breathe through mud. I pulled over onto the shoulder, popped the hood, and stared at metal I didn't understand. I tried anyway because I didn't want to admit how helpless I felt. I messed with the cables. I checked what I could. I got grease on my fingers and sweat on my neck. Then the car gave up completely. Dead. No signal on my phone. No passing headlights. Nothing but the road stretching into darkness. Cornfields on both sides, tall stalks shifting softly, as if they were whispering to each other. 20 miles at least before I'd reach anything. Maybe more. That's when the choice hit me. Stay in the car and hope someone drives by, or step out and start walking. The longer I sat there, the more wrong the air felt. The corn and grass rose like walls, too high, too close. A normal field is just a field. But this didn't feel normal. It felt like the land was leaning in, like it was listening. And then the hometown stories came back to me, the old folklore people laughed about during daylight. The thing people told teenagers to scare them away from drinking and driving down country roads. You aren't supposed to take this road unless you know you can make it through in one go. Because if you get trapped, you don't come back. People said it like a joke, but the punchline was always the same. No one sees you again. Sitting there, surrounded by corn and tall grass, I wanted you so badly it made me shake. I wanted your heartbeat against my chest, your head heavy in the bend of my neck, the way it used to be when you fell asleep on me. I wanted your warmth. I wanted the simple proof that I still belonged to someone, that I still had a place to return to. How did I let you become something I lost? How did I let something so precious slip out of my hands like sand? I stepped out of the car and started walking toward town. At first, it felt straightforward. Just a road, just darkness, just me. I told myself I was being dramatic. I'd walk until I found a farmhouse or a mailbox, something with a name on it. I'd get help. I'd come back for the car, but the road didn't stay the same. I walked for what felt like a long time, my shoes scuffing against asphalt, my breath loud in the quiet. Then, when I should have been closer to town, I turned a bend and stopped so hard my spine went stiff. A wall of corn blocked the road, not a field beside it, not stalks leaning over the shoulder, a solid, packed wall across the asphalt, as if the crops had grown straight out of the ground and decided the road ended there. The stalks were thick and tall, at least 15 feet, pressed together so tight I couldn't see through them. I stared for a long time, waiting for my eyes to adjust, waiting for my brain to decide what I was looking at. It wasn't possible. I walked up to it and pushed with both hands. The stalks didn't bend the way corn should. They resisted like woven rope, like a fence. My stomach dropped. I turned around fast, ready to march back to my car, ready to laugh at myself for panicking. I walked back the way I came. Except I didn't find my car. I hit another dead end. Another wall of stalked corn and tall grass. The same height, the same packed density. The air smelled green and sharp, like crushed leaves, and there was a dampness under it, like soil that never saw sunlight. I stood there and felt something ugly bloom inside me. Anger, shame, fear, all tangled together. I hated myself for leaving in the first place. I hated myself for not trying harder when you were still mine. I hated how easy it was for me to run from pain instead of facing it. The shame sat in my bones, heavy and solid. It pushed me down until my knees hit the ground, and I made a sound that wasn't a word, just a raw, desperate noise. Then I forced myself to stand. There had to be a way out. I started backtracking again, walking in the opposite direction, and that's when I saw it. A corner cut through the crops like a path had been mowed down and left there. Stalks crushed flat underfoot, a narrow passage twisting between walls of corn. The asphalt was gone, not cracked or broken, gone, like it had never existed. My throat tightened, my skin prickled, and I could feel sweat cooling on my back. But it was a path. It was something. So I followed it. It twisted left, then right, then left again. Each time I thought I'd come out to a road, I only found more walls of crops and more turns. The crushed stalks under my feet were my only guide. I kept telling myself I'd reach an opening eventually, that this was just some strange part of the field, some service path. Then I reached a crossroads. 5 directions split away from where I stood, not counting the way I'd come. Except when I looked back, the path behind me was changing. Stalks were rising upright, uncrushing themselves as if time was running backward. Grass sprouted and swelled, flooding into the space I'd walked through. It was like the maze was healing, closing, swallowing the only way back. Panic hit me so hard my vision pulsed. I remembered you telling me to follow my heart. You used to say it like it was simple, like the right direction was something you could feel if you stopped overthinking. So I picked a path and ran. Behind me, the wind pressed against my back, and I heard the soft, awful sound of stalks brushing together as the space closed up, not just rustling, moving, like a living thing settling into place. I ran until my lungs burned, until my legs felt loose and useless. Then suddenly the crops opened up and I stumbled onto a gravel road. It felt like salvation. Real ground, real stones, a straight stretch instead of twisting walls. I could have cried from relief. If I was near anything, if there was any chance this road led to safety, my first stop would be you. Even thinking that, even knowing what you told me in our last conversation, I still wanted you. My mind kept insisting that at the end of all this, you'd be there and I could fall into you and everything would make sense again. I walked down that gravel road for hours. My limbs started to throb. My hips ached. My shoulders felt like they were carrying a weight. My mouth dried out until swallowing hurt. Eventually, my body made the decision for me. My knees buckled and I went down like gravity finally remembered I existed. I lay on my back and stared at the sky. It was beautiful. Away from town lights, the stars looked sharp and endless. I could pick out constellations I never saw from campus or city streets. It felt like the universe was close enough to touch, every star a clean, bright point like a gem. I wished you could see it. I imagined you lying beside me, your hand in mine, your face tilted up. I imagined you smiling that small smile you had when you saw something pretty and didn't want to admit it moved you. You were always unique to me, the kind of beauty people didn't forget, and I'd fallen for it completely. You were the only person who mattered, and now, when I had no one else to run to, I couldn't stand the idea of losing you for good. I forced myself up and kept walking. The gravel road ended, and I found more crushed stalks leading into the crops again. 3 different directions this time. I chose the one that felt like it might lead back to a road, and I stomped through corn and wheat, pushing through stalks that slapped my arms and shoulders. I didn't see the sunrise clearly, but I caught a glimpse of swirling pink and orange through the thin gaps in the field. The light was so soft and unreal it made my throat sting. It reminded me of you, and then I smelled you, or I thought I did. That clean, fresh scent after you showered rosemary mixed with something sweet like peach cream. It hit me so hard I almost stopped walking. For a second, I could taste you in the back of my mouth, like memory had become physical. I kept going for hours. Night found me again. By then, my exhaustion was turning into something dangerous. My thoughts started slipping. I'd stare at the stalks and see shapes that weren't there. I'd hear a sound and swear it was a voice. My body begged me to stop, so I did. I lay down right where I stood, on flattened corn and grass, and I told myself I'd close my eyes for just a minute, just enough to reset my brain. Sleep took more than I meant to give it. When I woke up, I could see light through my eyelids, a dim red glow. I hadn't opened my eyes fully yet, but I could feel something on top of me, a weight pressing into my chest. I opened my eyes. Something jerked away, startled, like it was the one who got caught. It ran into the corn. At first, I thought it was a raccoon or a dog, some animal sniffing me. But what I saw was wrong. I know you used to tell me my imagination runs too wild, and most of the time you were right, but I swear to you this was real. It looked like a little man made of corn stalks, a torso of woven husk and stem. 2 black, beady eyes set in a face that wasn't really a face, legs that looked like bundles of cut stalks, moving in quick, stiff steps. It disappeared into the field with a skittering sound. Fear went through me like ice water. I ran, not thinking, just running, until my lungs ached and I couldn't go any farther. When I finally stopped, bent over with my hands on my knees, I heard movement all around me, skittering, and a clicking sound, like someone flicking their tongue against the roof of their mouth. That's when I stopped pretending this was just me being tired. I wasn't on a normal road anymore. I was inside something that moved on its own. A maze that didn't need walls made of stone because it had living crops that could rise and close and erase paths. And something lived in it, something bigger than the little corn man. I started running again. Corn shifted beside me like waves, moving with my movement, keeping pace. I turned corner after corner, and the field kept changing like it was guiding me deeper. There was no way I could outrun whatever was following. I burst into a small clearing and stopped, spinning in place. Grass shimmered in every direction, catching moonlight like it was wet even though it didn't feel wet. My heart hammered so hard it hurt. And in that clearing, I missed you so badly I could barely stand it. I missed your warmth, the way your soft skin made my rough hands feel gentler. I missed wanting you and being wanted back, that simple human proof that I was alive. Then they came out. The little corn men stepped from the stalks one by one until a circle formed around me. They were only about hip-high, each with those same black eyes. Their limbs twitched like arms and legs learning how to be arms and legs. Some looked different than others, like they had their own kind of bodies, their own shapes. Kernels showed through the husk on some of them, longer and more exposed than on others. They stared at me with a strange focus, like curiosity, not hatred, not hunger. They studied me like I was the odd thing here. For a moment, I didn't feel attacked. I felt examined. Then we all heard it. A call from deep in the field, a long yell that seemed to carry for miles, ending in a sound that made the back of my teeth ache. The little cornmen reacted instantly. They scattered, running in all directions like a flock of birds escaping a shadow. The stalks around the clearing began to sway, not from wind, but from something pushing through. Something bigger. Now I didn't feel examined, I felt hunted. The wall of corn split apart, and a beast stepped out. It was tall and wrong, its face elongated like a stretched mask woven from stalks. Its eyes were huge and gaping, filled with darkness so complete they didn't reflect any light. It didn't blink. It didn't breathe the way animals breathe. It just stared at me like it already owned me. A thin membrane of skin covered its body, stretched over woven stalk and plant flesh, translucent enough that I could see faint veins. Its limbs were long and jointed in a way that looked half human, half constructed. Its hands ended in claws that looked too real, curved and sharp. My lungs locked. I couldn't breathe. My brain flashed with images of you, quick and painful, like a final slideshow before death. Then instinct took over and I ran. It worked for one reason. The beast was slow, not weak, just sluggish, as if its body had to obey rules of its own making. It took long strides but didn't have speed. I ran and wondered how many more of them were in here. How many things like that lived in the maze, waiting for anyone foolish enough to get trapped. I kept going even when my legs screamed at me to stop. I told myself I was running for you. I told myself if I survived this, I'd find you and I'd finally say everything I should have said years ago. I'd tell you I still adored you, that I'd been careless with your heart, that I'd walked away when I should have stayed and fought for us. I ran until I couldn't hold water in my stomach anymore. In the middle of the night, I dropped to my knees and threw up, my throat burning. When I finished, I stayed on the ground, shaking, my forehead pressed to cold dirt. I thought of your bed, the pillow next to yours, the way I used to reach for you in the dark without thinking. You were what kept me moving. The thought of you kept me sane. I don't know if I would have kept going without that hope, even if it was foolish. I must have passed out because the next thing I knew, something rough was rubbing against my face. It scraped hard enough to leave a burning line along my cheek. I tried to fling it away, half asleep and confused. It kept rubbing, urgent, like it was trying to wake me up. I forced my eyes open. Little corn men. One of them was tugging at me, pulling at my sleeve and then pushing at my shoulder, trying to get me upright. Behind them, far away but getting closer, I could hear that call again. The beast. That long howl that seemed to vibrate the ground. When I got to my feet unsteady, the little corn people scattered again, sprinting into the field. And I understood what they were doing. They weren't hunting me. They were warning me. I ran the path they left behind, a strip of gravel and crushed stalks that looked almost too slick for my boots to grip. I pushed through pain, through dizziness, through the feeling that my body was turning hollow. The howl got closer, and then something reached out from the corn and grabbed my ankle. I crashed forward. I twisted hard, almost snapping my knee. When I looked back, I saw a hand with long, bony fingers pulling me toward the wall of crops. The arm was covered in that same thin membrane, stretched over woven stalk like skin over a framework. I grabbed at it with both hands and tore. The membrane ripped like wet fabric, and the thing jerked back. It let go before it could drag me too far, as if it didn't want to leave the path for long. I limped away, ankle throbbing, and kept running. I ran into morning. The sun rose, and the light didn't make anything feel safer. It only made the corn look brighter, the shadows sharper, the maze more real. Fatigue wasn't just a feeling now. It was the only thing inside my body filling every space where strength used to be. I tripped over my own feet and hit the ground face first, mud caking my mouth and nose. Scrapes burned along my cheekbones. I didn't want to get up. I tried anyway. My arms shook, my legs refused, and the will inside me felt gone, like someone had turned a switch and left me empty. The little corn men came back. A few of them hovered near my shoulders and arms, tugging at me, trying to lift me. Their beady eyes looked almost sad, but they couldn't move me. Then the howl rang out again, louder than before. So close the ground vibrated with it, the corn people scattered, leaving me lying in gravel and mud. And as I lay there, something in my mind finally caught up with the real reason I'd been running before I ever got trapped out here. It slammed into me so hard I felt like my ribs cracked. You had told me you moved on. You told me you were seeing someone else. Those words played in my head like a recording I couldn't stop. Everything inside me broke all at once. And I wished, stupidly, that I could die without thinking of you. Because thinking of you only brought misery. But misery was what I had earned. I stared at the moving stalks and thought, if I had been different, if I had done one thing better, if I had fought harder, maybe you would have stayed. Maybe I wouldn't be lying here waiting to be eaten by something made of crops and darkness. Then I felt it, breath that wasn't warm, a presence beside my face. The creature was right there, so close I could see the tiny veins running through its thin membrane skin. Beneath the translucent layer, woven plant flesh shifted, looking like corn stalks from far away but like braided muscle up close. Its wide eyes were empty wells, and in their darkness I saw a reflection of my own emptiness. For one terrible second, letting go seemed easy. Then something new hit my chest, a hard, angry thump of life. I didn't stay there. I pushed up and ran. Pain screamed through my ankle, through my lungs, through my throat. Behind me, the beast took long, heavy strides, still sluggish but relentless. I prayed for my will to live to last long enough. My body failed anyway. I collapsed onto flattened stalks and heaved until the back of my throat felt scorched. The beast loomed over me, its length making it look even larger, like it could cover my entire body if it wanted. Under the membrane, the weave of its flesh moved in a slow, crawling way, as if the interlaced strands were alive. It lowered its empty eyes toward my face, and that's when I realized it still hadn't shown me its mouth. No teeth, no jaw, just that stretched face and those sockets. Then it rose slightly, hunching its spine. A long line of membrane ran along its back like a seam. It turned away from me and grabbed handfuls of corn stalks, ripping them up with a strength that didn't match its slow movement. I tried to stand. Another shape stepped from the maze and blocked my way. A second beast. Now the first one turned back and pinned me down, its claws pressed into my shoulders and sides, cutting through fabric and skin. I couldn't get a full breath. It began shoving corn stalks into my mouth, down my throat, stuffing me until I gagged and choked, until I couldn't breathe, until my body fought so hard it felt like I'd tear in half. Wheat and husk scraped and packed inside me, and the claws kept cutting as they forced more. One of the beasts leaned close, its bald, pulsing head pressing toward my face. Then I felt a sharp tearing sensation along the top of my skull, like something slicing away what made me me. I couldn't scream. I couldn't even make sound. They tore at my limbs, and the pain came in white flashes. In between those flashes, I felt them replacing things, filling gaps, stuffing stalks and wheat where bone and muscle used to be. When my body finally gave up, I went still. My world turned black. I don't know if I died. I don't know if what happened next was an afterlife or something worse, but I could hear dirt shifting, soft movement above me, a muffled scrape like small hands digging. Then my eyes opened to darkness and loose soil. Little cornstalk arms reached down into the hole where I'd been buried. They pulled at me, dragged me upward with quick, stiff movements. I wanted to reach for them. I couldn't. My body wouldn't respond. The little corn people laid me on the surface and hovered over me. Their black eyes looked heavy, almost mournful. I tried again to move. A small shift, a twitch. That's when I felt the stiffness. Not the stiffness of sore muscles, the stiffness of something built, something dried, My arms wouldn't bend right, my legs didn't have joints the way they should. I tried to look down at myself. My neck resisted, rigid, like a post driven into the ground. When I finally lifted my arms high enough to see them, I understood. I was corn, not covered in corn, not tangled in stalks. I was a stalk of maize shaped like a person. My skin was husk and stem. Kernels pushed out in rough patches, even my head was wrong, corn sprouting out like short, uneven hair. My face wasn't a face, it was a tall, blank structure of stalk and leaf. I tried to open my mouth to scream your name. There was no mouth. My brain still worked, my thoughts still sounded like my own voice trapped inside me. But nothing came out. I pushed myself upright with stiff, plank-like limbs and stood unsteadily the way a newborn animal stands, except I wasn't an animal and I wasn't newborn. I was something made. The corn people around me moved closer, as if they were greeting me in the only way they could. I could feel their pity like a pressure, like they understood what had been taken from me. And then that pity vanished fast because the howl sounded again from deep in the tall grass. The corn people reacted instantly, sprinting away. I followed without understanding at first, but my body obeyed fear, and I didn't want to learn what happened when the beasts caught you twice. So now I run with them. Now I'm one of them. A man of maize, living among the corn people, surviving inside a maze that feeds on roads and choices, and anyone foolish enough to believe they can just walk out. The stalkers, the beasts, still roam out there. Sometimes we hear them before we see them, and the warning gives us just enough time to scatter. I shouldn't have left you. That regret is still in me, even if I don't have a heart the way I used to. I hate that I'm still alive to feel that pain, but out here pain doesn't matter as much as survival. Nothing matters as much as survival. If you ever decide to run off the way I did, don't take the back roads. Take the highway. Waste the time. Pay the gas. Sit in traffic if you have to. It's better than ending up where I am. And if you ever find yourself trapped between cornfields and tall grass and a road that doesn't stay a road, don't keep walking alone. Find the cornmen as fast as you can. They won't hurt you. They're the only reason I'm still here. They're the only reason I got a second life at all, even if it's not the kind of life anyone would choose. Story 2. This is the final entry from the diary of my great-great-grandfather, who disappeared in 1888. Our family recently found it in a storeroom. Thursday, the 15th of November, 1888, when people think of London, what do they picture? Big Ben, St. Paul's Cathedral, the new Tower Bridge rising over the river, handsome cabs moving through the streets, and Her Majesty's presence felt in everything from politics to manners. It is a fair picture. It is even comforting in a way. And I will not pretend London is not impressive. Many call it the greatest city in the world. For a man with money and a good name, it can be exactly that. I have been lucky. I have lived on the correct side of life. I am a physician with a respected position, delivering lectures at University College London, and on occasion at Cambridge as well. I have the kind of career a boy dreams of when he is young and believes the world is orderly. A paid post that matches my early interests, enough income for my own Berlin carriage, and even, for my foolish pride, a penny farthing. I have also had the rare honor of working alongside Charles Darwin. I met him through my close childhood friend, Sir James Paget, who introduced us after hearing of my investigations into the differences between diseases of past centuries and those of our own age. Mr. Darwin's theory of evolution held too much careful logic for me to dismiss. To be invited into his circle was an honor I did not deserve. James and Mr. Darwin were, for years, the best sort of colleagues and friends. They were generous to a fault, always insisting on paying when we took tea or lunch. In a world full of selfish men and loud egos, they were steady, decent, and quietly brilliant, so far removed from that despicable wretch Richard Owen that it sometimes felt like they lived in a different moral climate altogether. They were also kind to my family. They played with my son Benjamin when he was only 4 years old. They made little phanakistoscopes for him, those spinning picture devices that make drawings appear to move. They even played hide and seek with him in Hyde Park, two famous men laughing like boys, as if there were no lectures to prepare and no committees to argue with and no weight of reputation. I will never forget the sight of James letting Benjamin chase him after he was found, pretending to stumble and laugh and protest, and I will never forget Mr. Darwin choosing our carriage as a hiding place, only to startle the horse, which bolted down the street for a few frightening seconds before I got control again. Afterward, Mr. Darwin said, perfectly calm, "You will be pleased to know that your horse is far more skilled at hide-and-seek than I am. It seems natural selection has not been generous to me." That dry humor always reminded me of my late parents. They taught me again and again to do good wherever it may be done, and to spread kindness when one has the means to do so. They believed kindness was not a decoration for the wealthy, but a duty. My father was one of the men who exposed the cruel conditions children suffered in coal mines, work that helped lead to the Mines and Collieries Act in 1842. I loved hearing his stories as a boy. One tale has stayed with me for decades. How a coal owner laughed when told a 6-year-old boy was coughing blood from coal dust. And my father, in a fury, struck the man in the nose. My father was not a violent man, but he could not bear cruelty. I admired him for it. I only wish I had understood earlier that kindness cannot mend every soul, and that believing it can is not noble. It is the sort of fantasy that gets people hurt. In 1881, I began teaching a fresh group of medical students. It was the usual professor's life, taking on first years who were ambitious, eager, and often made of more confidence than sense. Many were slow, a few were bright, and among the bright ones was an 18-year-old young man named Norman Palmer. He had the eyes of a puppy, that is the simplest way to describe it. Hard-working, timid, handsome in a quiet way, and always wearing a smile that made people feel fond of him. He had a soft, eager manner that pulled sympathy from you without you realizing it. Anyone would have felt protective toward him. And as I later learned, pity can blind you faster than any lie. It began in one of my lectures when I presented the corpse of a woman who had willingly donated her body to science. After the lesson, I invited the students to remain, to study the body, to make notes for an upcoming test. They did so respectfully, and one by one they left, all except Norman. At first I thought he was being careful and serious. I felt pleased, even proud. A student who stays after, who studies closely, who wants to learn. What professor does not want that? My back was turned only a short time as I gathered my papers. When I turned around, I saw him. I will not write every detail. I cannot. But I will say this plainly. His hands and his mouth were where they should never have been. Not on the living, and certainly not on the dead. The dead deserve dignity, even in the dissecting room, even in education, even when we must cut and study and learn, we are still meant to remember the human being who once lived inside that body. He treated her like an object. I should have reported him. I should have expelled him on the spot. I should have done what a man in my position is meant to do. Protect the institution, protect other students, protect future patients, protect the public. Instead, to my lasting shame, I chose to overlook it. I pulled him aside and told him never to do it again. I let my admiration for his intelligence and skill soften my judgment. I told myself I could teach him control, discipline, restraint. I acted like a professor who believed deviant impulses could be guided back into something normal, if only someone kind and educated took the time. I told myself he was troubled, not wicked. I told myself his behavior was not truly his fault. I told myself he was a boy shaped by unfortunate circumstances, and that my duty as a physician and teacher was to heal what could be healed. I had encouraged him earlier to confide in me. The dean had warned that Norman might become a disturbance in my class. He also hinted at something darker, that Norman's family had a history of mental affliction. Norman's mother, it was said, suffered from episodes of derangement and hallucination before her death. Still, I wanted to believe the boy could be more than the shadows of his parentage. I wanted to believe character was not fixed by inheritance. I wanted to believe, perhaps because it made me feel like the world was fair, that a young man could be guided away from darkness if someone simply cared enough. Nothing prepared me for what I learned about his childhood. When Norman was 6, his mother died of a sudden heart attack. His father, overwhelmed and coldly practical, sent him to an orphanage. And in that orphanage, the boy endured what no child should endure. He told me about daily beatings. He told me about whipping so harsh he blacked out more than once. He spoke of occasional blows to the head from the matron. He mentioned a fever that nearly killed him, a long illness he survived by luck more than strength. For 3 years he lived there, trapped in that place, and took him out when I heard those words. I wished I could go back in time and rescue him. I wished I had been there, older and stronger, to pull him out of that building and bring him into a home where he would be safe. After he left the orphanage, he received a formal education and, on the surface, became the young man I thought I knew. When I asked what first drove his interest in medicine, he gave an answer that should have made me stop and think harder. He said he went to Madame Tussaud's and became fascinated with human anatomy, especially the female form. It was an odd answer, but I told myself odd answers do not always mean danger. People find inspiration in strange places. I had students who were drawn to medicine for reasons I did not share, and some became excellent doctors, researchers, even coroners for Scotland Yard. So I did not press him. The only people I told about the incident with the corpse were James Paget and Mr. Darwin. Shortly after Norman's violation, I arranged a meeting at Down House. I confessed what I had seen and asked them, as men I respected, if they could speak with Norman and guide him away from such urges. Mr. Darwin agreed at once. James believed Mr. Darwin's age and calm wisdom made him the best person for the task. Mr. Darwin requested to meet Norman's father first, to better understand the boy's history. When the day came for Mr. Darwin to speak with Norman, I was present in the house in case I was needed, but Mr. Darwin asked to see him alone behind closed doors in his bedroom. When Norman left Down House, he seemed different. I could not have explained how. He looked the same, but something in his expression felt tightened, guarded. Then I entered the bedroom and found Mr. Darwin shaken, not wildly, but enough that I noticed at once. He was not the type of man to dramatize. If Darwin looked unsettled, there was reason. He said to me plainly, "I fear this young man's impulses are far from harmless. He may harm someone if left unchecked." He told me that Norman's father described a change in Norman as he grew older. Bashful, introverted, a boy who kept his feelings locked inside. And his father claimed Norman sometimes woke from violent dreams where he battled and killed what he called the wicked spirits of women. Mr. Darwin was disturbed by another detail. Norman admitted that the beatings in the orphanage and even the nightmares were sort of enjoyable. I tried to argue against what Darwin was saying. I told him it could be a coping mechanism, a twisted way of surviving trauma. I said the boy needed support, not condemnation. But Mr. Darwin would not be persuaded. He spoke of family history and heredity, tying it to his ideas about pangenesis. He looked at me with a sadness I will never forget and said, "Take my warning as you will. I only speak what I see, and it grieves me to say it. But I urge you, consider whether it is prudent he continue his studies here." I wish I had listened. I did not want to destroy Norman's second chance. I considered suggesting his father send him to an asylum, but the thought of locking a bright young mind behind 4 walls felt like injustice. It felt like giving up. I convinced myself I could take responsibility for guiding him. I told myself I would keep watch. I told myself I could steer him. For the first year, Norman worked hard. He was top of my class. My method seemed to work. As a lecturer, it felt like a gift, but every gift has its hidden cost. The first crack came on the 26th of April, 1882, when I invited my class to attend Mr. Darwin's funeral. Since Norman was my best student, he had the honor of riding with me in my Berline carriage alongside my wife and my child. The rest of the students traveled by hired omnibuses. Nothing seemed wrong, except for one thing that still makes my skin crawl when I remember it. Norman stared at my wife. Not a glance, not polite admiration. A fixed, hungry stare as if he were studying her like a specimen. My wife shifted uncomfortably. I saw it. But the day was solemn. I did not want to cause a scene. I told her quietly to ignore him, and I tried to pretend it was nothing. In the days and weeks that followed, the university began receiving complaints. He was showing improper attention to women, female staff, women in the corridors, women who passed him on the street. Then there were worse incidents. During an internship at St. Bartholomew's Hospital, a midwife kindly offered to share a hansom cab with him late at night as he wished to get home. She thought she was helping a young colleague. In the cab, he tried to touch her in the most indecent way. The cab driver heard her struggle and forced Norman out into the street. It did not end there. A similar complaint came after he boarded an omnibus with a woman employed by the White Star Line visiting London from Liverpool. She was going to see her brother, who happened to be one of my students. Norman sat too close, spoke to her in a manner that made her uncomfortable. Then, as the omnibus jolted over the road, he used the movement as an excuse to press his hands where he had no right. Soon, the rumors were no longer rumors. They became patterns. Even Florence Nightingale herself, despite her illness, made the effort to visit and express concerns about what had happened to one of her nursing students during Norman's exchange period at St. Thomas's Hospital. When a woman like Miss Nightingale speaks, one listens. And yet, still, I resisted what was in front of me. Eventually, the university expelled him after he attacked a female philosophy student. He struck her hard enough to knock her unconscious and then attempted the same violation again. The university wanted to turn him over to the police. I persuaded them to show mercy. Even writing those words makes my hands cold. Mercy. As if mercy was what the moment required, the thought of destroying the life of a young man I believed was sick felt unbearable. I told myself he needed treatment, not punishment. I chose the story that made me feel like a good man. Before he left, I told him sincerely, "If you feel you have recovered, come to me. I will fight for your re-enrollment." I also urged him to seek help at an asylum as soon as possible, though I hoped, foolishly, that my words might be enough. I wanted to believe I had corrected him. I was a fool. That fight never came. James expressed disappointment in me. He warned me sharply that mercy without prudence can do more harm than cruelty, because it releases danger back into the world under the excuse of kindness. He said, "That choice you made is what I would call sinful mercy. Our dear Darwin would have thrown himself in front of a horse if he were still with us." Years passed, and the city changed, and the streets filled, and my lectures continued. Outwardly, my life stayed respectable. Inwardly, the rot spread. I tried going to the police. They told me there was little to be done without proof. Chief Inspector Donald Sutherland Swanson, a diligent man, did follow up on my suspicions and sent officers to Norman's address. But Norman was gone. His family claimed they had thrown him out after he tried to attack a visiting aunt the year before. Then came this autumn, and the city became a place of fear. Whitechapel, the newspapers, the endless arguments over whether the killer was a butcher, a doctor, a Jew, a foreigner, a madman, a gentleman, or some phantom the police could never catch. I watched London talk itself into circles while poor women died in the dark. And then I saw something that removed any doubt. I convinced George Lusk to show me the letter he received with that kidney in October of this year. I will not pretend I am certain about every rumor the press prints, but I know handwriting. I have read thousands of pages from students, colleagues, and patients. There was no uncertainty when I saw it. It was Norman's hand. The same shape to the letters, the same slant, The same spacing, too strikingly similar to deny. There can be no doubt in my mind now. Norman Palmer has become what the newspapers call Jack the Ripper. Whatever you may think of me, whatever excuses you may offer, one thing is clear. I unleashed a monster into our great city, and I protected him. God forgive me. I protected him. I cannot sleep. When I close my eyes, I see the faces of those poor women, and I hear nothing but the sound of London at night, the distant wheels, the footsteps, and the silence between them where death can hide. Mary Ann Nichols, Annie Chapman, Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, and God help me, Mary Jane Kelly. And how many more? Women the police have not yet connected, women whose names never reached the papers because they were too poor and too alone for anyone to make a noise about them. They did nothing to deserve such ends. In my heart, I am a murderer, not by knife, but by choice, by cowardice, by pride, by the belief that my own judgment was kinder and better than consequence. I have to do what must be done. To my students and colleagues, it has been one of the greatest privileges of my life to work beside you. Thank you for your patience, your curiosity, your sharp minds, and the honor of allowing me to spend my days among people who still believe knowledge can improve the world. James, thank you for being the truest friend I have known. I am blessed to have met you at the Angel Inn. Had I not crossed paths with you, I fear I might never have developed my interest in medicine. I expected that outing with my father to be tedious, another afternoon of listening to his friend Mr. Randall's lectures, but meeting you changed my life. My dearest wife, I am sorry. I am sorry for my naivete years ago and for the danger I have helped bring to our streets. Thank you for your kindness, for your laugh, and for your apple pudding that brought light into the corners of my life. You deserved a safer city than the one I have helped create. London is in danger because of me, and I can never undo that sin. Benjamin, my boy, you are a man now. It is time for you to continue without me. Papa will always be proud of you. Congratulations on earning your appointment as a botanist at the University of Edinburgh. Continue the work that matters. Expose the cruel living and working conditions children face in textile mills and orphanages, and the suffering of poor women forced into brothels. Do good where it may be done. The way my parents taught me and the way I tried to teach myself, even if I failed. I have instructed the bank to leave every penny of mine to you. Use it well. Make it count for something better than my mistakes. Benjamin, if you find this entry, you will find me in the River Thames. Papa is going to find Uncle Darwin and apologize to him personally. I do not know if any apology can ever be enough, but I must try. And do tell him, if such words can reach him, that his prediction of your success has come true. He will be proud of you, more than he would ever be of me. If my love for you could have saved me from my folly, I would have lived forever for you, my son. You will always be Papa's little sun and stars. Believe me always, your affectionate father, Papa. Story 3. New Year's Day is supposed to be slow, the kind of morning where even the roosters take their time remembering what they're for. I was sitting in the thatched cantina on the edge of town, nursing a glass of warm milk for my ulcer and pretending it helped. The place was almost empty. A radio murmured behind the bar, fading in and out of static like it couldn't decide whether to stay awake. I'd just started to think I might get through the morning without being bothered when the door opened and 2 police officers stepped inside. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't need to. The bartender lifted a hand toward me, and the officers followed that gesture the way men approach a dog they're not sure is friendly. "Señor, atención," one of them said. "We need you to come with us." I set my glass down carefully. "For what?" "A request from the new Secretary of Wildlife," he said. "Dr. Fritz Emblem. He says you're the local expert." I almost laughed. Expert was the word people used when they didn't want to say the man who used to work with the Americans. I'd walked away from that liaison work years ago, walked away from NIH researchers with their clipped explanations, their endless protocols, and their habit of answering questions with more questions. But the island is small and the past never stays buried. What happened? I asked. The officers exchanged a look, the kind that tells you the answer isn't good. Another goat, the driver said. Found this morning, same as last year. An emblem wants me why? I asked. Because you've seen this before, the officer replied. And because he hasn't. I stood, wiped my mouth with the back of my hand, and followed them outside. The sun was already high, bleaching the road and the sugarcane fields beyond. The air felt too still for a holiday. We climbed into the van. As we pulled away, the radio crackled into static and then went quiet again. Somewhere in the hills, a rooster crowed late as if it had startled itself awake. I watched the landscape roll past and felt that old weight settle in my chest. The sense that the island was trying to tell me something and that I'd run out of excuses not to listen. The first goat had been found in late August of 1995, lying on its side in flattened grass behind a tobacco shed. The farmer who discovered it thought at first it had been struck by lightning. The body looked untouched. The ground around it was dry, no burn marks, no smell. No blood. By the end of the week, there were 2 more scattered across the hills like dropped stones. No tracks, no broken fences, no sign of struggle. September came, and after a storm, another missing goat was found by children. That one had been pulled into a tree, its body drained. The first week of October brought another, lying near the road as if it had simply decided to rest there. No broken bones, no tire marks. Not a hit and run. In the last week of October, a 6th goat turned up, found by a priest walking his dog. People talked because people always talk. They blamed stray dogs, then poachers, then something nameless that moved at night. When the 7th goat turned up in November, drained the same way as the others, the gossip hardened into a single phrase that passed from porch to porch, bar to bar, radio to radio. The monkeys are drinking blood. Officials dismissed it. Scientists denied it. Newspapers ran a few cautious paragraphs and moved on. But the rumors stayed, clinging to the island like humidity, waiting for something to feed it. Panic grew. Paranoia grew. The government was forced to respond. At first, it came quietly. A few patrols on back roads. Wildlife officers asking questions nobody wanted to answer. But by mid-November, after that 7th goat, they sent uniformed teams into the hills. Small groups moving through brush with radios pressed to their shoulders. Officially, they were assisting in locating escaped animals. The evening news repeated the phrase in the calm voice they use when they want the public to swallow something without chewing it. But seeing soldiers on rural footpaths unsettled people more than dead goats ever had, because it made the rumor feel real. When the officers brought me to the clearing that New Year's morning, I recognized the place before the van even stopped. Same hills, same wind, same tightness in my gut. A few vehicles were parked under trees, engines ticking as they cooled. Someone had set up a folding table with maps pinned down by rocks. The whole scene looked like an operation, but it felt more like people trying to pretend control existed. And there he was, Dr. Fritz Emblem, standing at the edge of the clearing with a notebook, flipping pages like answers might appear if he stared hard enough. When he saw me, relief and worry tangled on his face. "Atención," he said, walking over. "Thank you for coming." The heat was already pressing against my neck when I stepped out. "You said it was urgent," I told him. "So talk." He hesitated, glanced at the trees, then toward the officers. "Walk with me," he said. "There's something you need to see." We moved toward the far side of the clearing. The grass was still wet from the night. Emblem kept glancing at his notebook as if the paper might rearrange itself into better news. "Before we go any further," he said, "I need your perspective on the facilities. You worked with them. You know their reputations." I snorted. Reputations. That's one word for it. "Start with Cayo Santiago," he said. "The island. Cayo is a rumor with a coastline," I told him. "Half a mile offshore. Looks harmless from the mainland. But you put 1,000 rhesus monkeys out there for decades, and the place starts to feel watched. Students sit in towers taking notes, the monkeys roam like they own the rock, and at night you hear them screaming across the water. People pretend they don't, but they do. Emblem scribbled something. They're tagged, cataloged, monitored. Not contained, I cut in. Never contained. That's why people don't trust it. He nodded once, tight. And Sabana Seca? That's the one locals mean when they say experimental monkeys, I said. Concrete buildings, chain link pens, lights humming all night, blood draws, whatever the funding requires. If a monkey escaped, it escaped from there, not from Cayo. Locals say a lot, I replied. But Sabana Seca never helped itself. Trucks at strange hours, workers in masks long before anyone else wore them, denials that sounded like they were meant for someone far away. He stopped walking. And the third site? I looked at him. You really want to talk about the bone room? He hesitated. Deep in the university, climate-controlled, drawers full of skeletons, thousands. Every monkey that passes through the system ends up there eventually. Students measure skulls. Visiting researchers whisper over jawbones like they're relics. Most people on the island don't even know it exists. And those who do? He asked. They don't like thinking about it, I said. A library of bones built over generations. A reminder this work has been going on longer than anyone wants to admit. Emblem closed his notebook slowly, like it had gotten heavier. So you're telling me all 3 facilities could be connected to what's happening now? I'm telling you none of them are innocent, I said. They brought me to the edge of the clearing, where the grass dipped into a shallow wash of sand and scrub. Goat number 8 lay there on its side, still and quiet, just like the others. I didn't go to the body right away. I've learned the first thing you look at is rarely the thing that tells the truth. Emblem hovered behind me. We secured the area, he said. No one touched anything. I nodded and crouched, eyes scanning the ground. Sand tells stories bodies can't. A few feet away, near flattened brush, I noticed a faint pattern, shallow but deliberate. There, I said. Tracks. Emblem stepped closer. Human? No, I said. Small, narrow, weight on the toes. Could be macaque. He exhaled, not relief and not fear. Something between. A few steps farther, snagged on a thorny stem, I saw a tuft of coarse hair. Pale at the root, darker at the tip. I didn't touch it with my fingers. I'd made that mistake before. I need an evidence bag, I said. One of the officers jogged back and returned with a small pouch. I used a dry stick to lift the hair and let it drop into the bag without brushing my skin. Emblem watched me like he was afraid to speak too loudly. You think it's from one of ours? He asked. I think it's from a monkey, I said, sealing the bag. Whether it's from your facilities is what the lab will tell us. And if it is, he asked. I stood and brushed sand from my knees. The clearing felt too quiet, the air too still, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Then we stop pretending this is random, I said. And we hold the real culprit accountable this time. Emblem swallowed. You mean the monkeys? I looked at him. I mean, whoever let them out. Emblem walked me back toward the vehicles, pinching the evidence bag between his fingers like it might burn him. At the edge of the clearing, he cleared his throat. I'll take the sample to the university lab myself, he said, faster than sending it through the department. I nodded. Fine. You wanted my opinion, you got it. Now do your part. I'll contact you as soon as I have results, he said. And then he turned away, dialing on his expensive phone, slipping back into the world of offices and paperwork. Whatever happened next, he would be dealing with it under fluorescent lights. I would be dealing with it outside. By the time I reached a small motel in Cabo Rojo, the sun was dropping behind the mangroves, turning the sky the color of old copper. I hadn't even set my bag down when someone pounded on my door. One of the same officers from the clearing stood there, breathless, sweat darkening his collar. "Atención," he said. Another goat turned up. One that went missing in December. I stared at him. "Where?" "Half a mile from number 8, he said. "Practically next door." We were already walking toward the van when I asked, "Did you notify Emblem?" The officer shook his head. "We tried." No answer. They said he went back to the university to use the lab. The engine rumbled. Headlights cut through early dusk. The fields slid past like dark water. That weight returned in my chest, the same one I'd felt on the ride to the clearing. The sense that whatever was happening wasn't slowing down. It was circling. I nodded, staring out the window. "Patterns don't usually move backward," I said, "but this one might." The driver tightened his grip on the wheel. "You think it's the same thing that got number 8? "I think whatever's out here isn't done," I said. We hit a stretch of washboard road, the van rattling like loose bones in a drawer. Ahead, the headlights caught 2 patrol cars parked nose to nose near a break in the trees. Officers stood beside them, talking low, the way people talk when they're afraid the night might overhear. The driver slowed. "Here." I stepped out. The warm air hit me like a held breath finally released. Somewhere beyond the brush, I could feel the shape of the pattern tightening. The officers stayed behind on the path while I moved ahead with a borrowed flashlight and a radio. The beam cut through the dark and found a small pond reflecting the trees in a broken circle. Goat number 9 lay at the water's edge, on its side as if it had simply laid down to sleep. The body looked untouched. The ground around it looked clean. No tracks, no struggle. I crouched and swept the light across the pond. A soft sound came from the far bank, something quick moving through grass. I lifted the flashlight and caught the blades parting. For a moment I saw eyes in the reflection. 2 small points that held the light and stared back. I stood and circled the pond, careful with each step. The far side opened into a narrow clearing beneath a twisted tree. Goat number 10 lay near its roots. Fresh, quiet, drained without a trace of blood on the soil. Then a sound came above me. A soft chittering carried through the branches. I lifted the flashlight. Dark shapes shifted in the canopy. Small bodies, long limbs, eyes that caught the light and held it. The monkeys watched me without moving, like a silent ring in the leaves. I raised the radio. "Get to my position," I said. Now, the chittering stopped. The shapes slipped deeper into the trees. By the time the officers reached me, the branches held nothing but wind. "They were here," I said. An officer looked up at the empty canopy. "Where did they go?" "They left before you arrived," I said. "That's what they do." I went back to the motel before dawn, the sky still undecided gray. I lay on the bed without taking off my boots. Sleep came in thin scraps. Every time I drifted off, I saw the pond again and those eyes in the water. I must have slept an hour before voices outside snapped me awake. Too many voices. I pushed the curtain aside. People stood in the parking lot, cameras, notepads, microphones, the hungry look of outsiders who smelled the story. "Where is the expert?" Someone called. "We heard he's in this village." I stepped away from the window. The last thing I wanted was to explain what I'd seen to journalists who wanted a headline more than the truth. I grabbed my bag, slipped out the back, and cut through mangroves until no one followed. I walked toward the university as the sun climbed. Sweat gathered under my shirt. That weight in my chest grew with every step. On campus, students crossed courtyards with coffee cups, unaware of anything happening in the hills. An intern spotted me and brought me to Emblem's office. He looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from staring at the same problem until your brain starts lying to protect itself. "Atención," he said. "Sit." The hair sample was inconclusive. Not enough markers for a clear match. I ran it twice. "Inconclusive," I repeated. "That's your answer." "It's the only answer the equipment gave," he said. I saw monkeys last night, I told him. Not tracks, not guesses. Monkeys. They watched me from the trees. Emblem's head snapped up. Are you certain? I know what I saw. He closed the folder in front of him slowly. The room felt tighter. Then we have to talk about something, he said. He opened a drawer and pulled out another folder, newer, crisp, like it had been delivered, not filed. NIH already issued a statement, he said. They deny any escaped animals. According to them, 6 missing specimens died in a lab accident, bodies destroyed. They have documentation. I stared at him. Convenient. That's not the worst part, he said. The only witness, Dr. Mendiez, was hospitalized for blood poisoning. He died days later. The hospital lost the records. Every page, I felt the room kilt just a little. So there is no proof, I said. No witness, no evidence the authorities will accept. Emblem nodded. Nothing official. I leaned closer. Official doesn't matter. Something is killing livestock and moving like it knows the land. Emblem lowered his voice. The governor wants this handled quietly. No panic, no troops, no public statements. My job is to make it go away. I want you to lie, I said. I want you to stay silent, he corrected. No interviews, no press. The journalists in Cabo Rojo cannot hear a single word from you. I wasn't planning to speak to them, I said. But your silence won't stop this. Emblem hesitated, then opened another set of papers. NIH is flying in specialists from the United States, he said. Consultants. Officially, they're evaluating our cooperation with federal guidelines. Their findings will influence next year's assistance budget. So they're not here to help, I said. They're here to judge, he replied. They want to know if we control the narrative. And you want me to meet them? I said. Yes, in the field. I waited. What exactly do you want me to say? He looked me in the eye, and for the first time he sounded less like an official and more like a man afraid. Blame it on poachers. He said, dogs, parasites, anything that doesn't involve research animals. You want me to lie to federal consultants? I said. I want you to protect the island, he said. If they decide we mishandle this, budgets suffer, programs suffer, people suffer. If you contradict the official story, the consequences will reach far beyond this office. The weight settled on my shoulders again. Heavy, familiar. The island loves its secrets, love them more. I don't like this, I said. I know, Emblem replied, but if you walk away, the situation collapses. You're the only person they'll trust in the field. I closed my eyes for a moment. Fine, I said. I'll meet them. Emblem let out a breath. Thank you. I turned to leave, then stopped. But understand something, I won't protect whoever created this. He didn't need to. That evening, as the last light drained from the sky, I returned to the village and felt the quiet pressing against everything. Doors shut, curtains tight, no music, no dogs barking. It wasn't normal quiet. It was fear. I looked up and saw a goat standing on the motel roof, outlined against the moon. It stared past me, not at me, as if something behind me held its attention. Then came a rush of sound, scratching, quick steps, breath that didn't sound human. Shapes climbed onto the roof. 6 of them. Small bodies, long limbs, movements too quick and too coordinated. Chittering rose in sharp bursts. One stepped forward and looked straight at me, its eyes catching the moonlight. Patchy fur, ribs visible, teeth too long. I threw stones. They shifted back, but they didn't scatter. They closed around the goat and lifted it together, carrying it over the far side of the roof and vanishing into darkness. I ran inside, grabbed a lantern and a shovel, and followed. I found the goat minutes later, already still in the grass. No creatures, no tracks I could trust, just the aftermath. Villagers arrived with shotguns and machetes, faces pale. Vampire monkeys, someone whispered. Sent by the devil, another muttered. I stood there with the lantern shaking in my hand and knew what the officials would say tomorrow. They'd say it was dogs, poachers, parasites, anything but the truth. Later, I met the Americans and told them what they wanted to hear. I said nothing to the reporters. I did my job and left. Back in the cantina, I sat under a single tired bulb sipping warm milk again. A young cat hunted a moth that kept landing just out of reach. It almost felt normal until Emblem walked in and sat a few stools away. He ordered whiskey. He didn't look at me at first. When he finally did, his face looked drawn, the tiredness deeper than before. "What do you want?" I asked. "I did your job. I found nothing." He lifted his glass but didn't drink right away. His voice was low. "That is because you looked away," he said, and called it safety. I let out a short breath. "Is that what you came here for, a confession?" He took a slow drink and set the glass down carefully. "I was dismissed," he said. He slid a folded newspaper onto the counter in front of me. I didn't read it. I pushed it away with the back of my hand. Emblem watched me, then stood and walked out. The night swallowed him. The bartender waited until the door shut. Then he picked up the newspaper and squinted at the headline under the weak light. He read it aloud, voice uncertain. "Livestock killings blamed on chupacabra amid UFO sightings." He lowered the paper and looked at me. "Señor, atención," he said quietly. "You know what really happened, right?" The cat brushed against my arm. The milk in my glass tasted sour now. Outside, the night hummed with that same uneasy silence as if the island itself was listening. I stared at the counter and said, "There is no more truth. Because once the story is decided by people with money and power, truth becomes something you keep in your chest like an ulcer, painful, private, and always burning." Story 4. I woke up on a raft. At least I think it was a raft. 4 old logs, cracked and swollen with seawater, held together by rusty chains that looked ready to break apart at any moment. That was all that kept me above the water. No sail, no oars, no rope, no food. Nothing but the logs beneath me and the endless ocean around me. I had no memory. Not a faded childhood scene. Not my parents' faces. Not the name of a friend. Not the sound of my own laugh at some birthday party long ago. My mind was empty, like a house after everything inside has been carried away. I knew I was a person. I knew I was alive. I knew the water below me was deep. But beyond that, there was nothing. Nothing except a silhouette, a woman. She stood inside my mind as clearly as if she were standing in front of me, though I could not see her face. She was about my height. I could not remember her clothes, her voice, or her name. I knew only that her hair had a faint golden shine to it, so I thought of her as blonde. Her hands were gently clasped in front of her waist, and her posture was calm, innocent, almost holy. I did not know who she was. I only knew her as the woman, and somehow that was enough to hurt. A splash of water hit my hand, pulling me out of that empty memory. I lifted my head and looked around. There was only ocean. To my left, water. To my right, water. Behind me, water. Ahead of me, water. The sky above was bright and blue, with clouds so white and smooth they looked painted. It should have been beautiful, but it frightened me. Beauty becomes threatening when it has no edge, no end, no human mark to break it. The ocean stretched in every direction, and the sky seemed too large for my mind to hold. I gripped one of the soaked logs and leaned over the side of the raft. Below me, the water was dark blue at first, then black. It fell away into depths so deep that they looked hollow. There was no sand beneath me, no coral, no rocks, not even a twig floating below the surface, just endless darkness turning slowly under the raft. I pulled back quickly. My clothes were little more than rags. A black hood had fallen from my head, and wet strands of hair clung to my face. My sleeves itched at my elbows. My knees shook when I tried to stand. My body ached in the way a body aches after suffering for a long time. I had no idea how long I had been there. Minutes, days, years. Time had no shape in that place. I turned slowly on the raft, searching for anything. A ship, a bird, land, a sign of life. Anything that could prove the world still existed beyond that water. For a long while, there was nothing. Then I saw a shape in the distance. At first, I thought I had imagined it. It was so far away and so still that it seemed more like a mark on the horizon than something real. I stared until my eyes hurt. The shape remained. I lowered my hands into the water and began pulling myself toward it. I had no oars, so I used my hands, scooping the cold ocean backward again and again. The raft moved slowly, painfully slowly, but it moved. As I drew closer, the shape became a house, a small wooden house floating on the water. It made no sense. There were no supports beneath it, no pillars reaching down into some hidden floor, nothing holding it up. It simply floated there, swaying gently with the melancholy rhythm of the waves, as if reality had forgotten to make it sink. Its walls were dark green. The porch and floorboards were made of pale birch plywood, warped and damp. The whole building looked impossibly thin, almost comical in its weakness. I was shocked it had ever stood at all, let alone survived out there in the middle of the ocean. My raft bumped against the front porch. I placed my palm on the wet plywood and pulled the raft close. Then I swung my aching legs over and climbed onto the porch. The floor dipped under my weight with a soft, wet groan. There was no front door, only an open doorway leading into darkness. Each step I took made the wood either crack or squish beneath my feet. I stopped at the threshold, wrapped my hands around the frame, and leaned forward to peer inside. At first, I saw nothing. Then a faint glimmer caught my eye. A string of silver beads hung from the ceiling. I reached into the darkness and wrapped my fingers around it. When I pulled, a pale blue light filled the room. There were only 3 things inside: a wooden chair and a glass of water on the table. The chair and table were both dark spruce, worn by time and dampness. But when I looked closer, I realized something was wrong with them. They did not sway with the house. They did not sit on the floor like furniture should. The chair legs were fused into the wooden boards. The table legs, too. They were not objects placed in the room. They were part of the room, as if the house had grown them. The glass sat in the exact center of the table, half full of water. It seemed lonely in a way I could not explain. A little pool of water trapped inside glass, surrounded by wood, while I was a man surrounded by endless water with nothing solid to hold me. It felt like an insult, or a reflection. Then a drop of red fell from the ceiling. It landed in the glass. I looked up. A dark red puddle clung to the ceiling, defying gravity. It shimmered above me like blood that had forgotten which way to fall. Another droplet swelled beneath it, then let go and fell into the glass. The red spread through the clear water in thin branching lines, like veins. Something twisted deep in my stomach. I did not know why, but dread tightened inside me like a knot. Then I heard it. Click, click, click. The sound echoed softly through the room. It was too steady to be the house settling, too deliberate. I turned around. There was a door in the frame now, a white door. It had not been there before. Scratch marks ran down its surface, cutting through the chipped paint near the bottom. The handle was brass with a silver lock below it. I could smell metal in the air around it. Coppery, sharp, almost like blood. I placed my hand on the knob and turned the lock. It cried out as it opened. Beyond the door was a hallway made of brick. At the far end stood a metal door, its edges rusted bronze and rough like old stone. The metallic smell grew stronger as I walked toward it. Then I heard voices. Hundreds of them. They came from behind the metal door, all speaking at once. Children asking for toys. Girls asking if a necklace looked good. A man humming to a beat. Another man whistling. People laughing, shopping, complaining, calling out living small, ordinary pieces of life. Their voices overlapped into a powerful echo. I reached for the handle. Grime flaked away under my fingers as I turned it. The door opened. The voices stopped. I was in a mall. A silent mall. That should not exist. Malls are never truly silent. Even empty ones have echoes, music, air conditioning, footsteps, distant chatter, something. But here, the only sound was my shoes touching the tiles. My breathing rang through the halls like a foghorn over a dead bay. The emptiness answered back. I stepped forward. Stores lined both sides of the corridor. T-shirt shops, bookstores, fast food places, shoe stores, little kiosks selling things I could not name. All the signs were there, all the displays, all the bright promise of normal life. But there were no people. A place built for noise had turned sour with silence. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead in a flat, sick lullaby. Shadows gathered in corners like patient animals. As I walked, my head began to feel fuzzy, as if I had been there before, but could not remember when. Then my foot came down with a crunch. I stopped. The air changed. The sadness of the place hardened into something sharper, meaner. A hateful pressure filled the corridor. I lifted my foot. The tile beneath it had cracked. The crack spread in a thin line, then branched across the floor like a spider web. One line ran away from me, crossing tile after tile, flowing through the mall like a black river. I followed it. I did not know why. In that place, everything seemed to lead me whether I wanted it to or not. I was a sheep, and the crack was my shepherd. The mall felt alive, not in a friendly way. It had its own presence, its own old heartbeat. Something had happened there long ago, something bad enough to stain the walls in ways no cleaning could erase. Memories clung to the place like gum pressed under tables. Love, fear, shame, anger, loneliness. I could feel them all layered into the tiles and glass. I wondered if memories always did that, if every place we touched kept some part of us, if love made rooms warmer, if grief made walls heavier, if fear remained long after the person who felt it had gone. The crack led me deeper into the mall. Shuttered storefronts passed on both sides. Posters of perfect men and women hung along the walls, their faces blurred and smudged like they were impossible to remember. Their skin had no pores, their hands had no veins. They looked less like people and more like mannequins pretending to be alive. Above me, triangular windows showed nothing but a gray void. No stars, no sun. Not night, not day. The crack kept moving. I followed it past stacks of wooden planks near unfinished renovations. The red glow of neon signs flickered overhead. The hum of the lights grew louder when I realized where the crack had brought me. A sign hung above wide shutter doors. Supermarket. The letters were flat, symmetrical, and painfully generic. I lifted the shutter and slipped inside like a child going somewhere he knew he was not supposed to enter. The aisles all faced me. Clean. Perfect. Abandoned. There was no checkout counter, no cash registers, no carts. Only aisles stretching in neat rows under white lights. I walked into the middle aisle. Boxes lined the shelves, but none had words on them. They were only colors: blue, red, yellow, brown. I picked one up and shook it. Empty. Not a crumb, not a piece of cereal, not a single candy or grain inside. On my left were large bags filled with a dirt-like substance. Something in my mind told me not to look at them too closely. So I kept walking. The aisle seemed to stretch forever. My feet began to throb. Each step felt heavier than the last. Eventually, I reached an intersection where 4 aisles met. I stood there, unsure which way to go. Every direction felt wrong. Then again, every direction had felt wrong from the beginning. I chose right. I do not know why. The air changed again. The melancholy chill became something watchful. Something haunted, then tiles shattered ahead of me. I looked up. A clown stood in the aisle. I froze. It did not move. It was impossibly tall. Taller than any normal man, it wore a black and white striped jumpsuit, and an obvious bald cap with tufts of red hair at the sides and back. Its skin was snow white. Its eyes were endless black holes that seemed to pull my sight into them. It smiled with orange teeth set in bleeding gums. It stared at me like a tomcat watching a mouse. Its long fingers vibrated. Yellowed nails scraped against each other with a tiny clicking sound. I suddenly felt like a child again, afraid of mall Santas, afraid of Easter mascots, afraid of clowns at birthday parties, afraid of things made for children that were only pretending to be friendly. A gap opened between its teeth. Its lower jaw dropped, then dropped farther and farther. Its mouth stretched open until the bottom of its jaw hung near its stomach, a 2-foot black opening lined with wet teeth. It looked hungry. Not with ordinary hunger, but with the desperate impatience of a dog watching a bone held just out of reach. Its arms fell forward until its hands nearly touched the floor. Then it began moving toward me. Its black boots hit the tile with heavy, crashing thuds. Its back arched like a cat. Spines rose beneath the striped jumpsuit, pushing against the fabric. It breathed through that enormous mouth with a sick wheezing sound. I ran. My feet felt like they weighed tons. My body moved as if it were submerged in tar. Behind me, the clown's wheezing grew closer. I could feel its hunger following me down the aisle. Ahead, a door appeared. Emergency exit. The words glowed bright red. I felt breath on my ear. Long fingers brushed my shoulder. I threw myself into the door. It burst open and I fell forward, rolling down a steep slope. I landed on grass. For a moment, I could not move. I lay on my back, breathing hard, strands of grass pressed against my skin. My clothes had deep slashes across them. I looked back toward where I had come from. There was no door, no mall, only endless fields and hills around me. The sky above was pink and orange, glowing like a sunset too beautiful to trust. Green grass moved in the wind. My heart hammered in my chest. The breeze flowed through my hair and touched my scalp almost gently. I stood on weak legs. The hills stretched for miles, but they were not normal hills. They were too symmetrical. Each one was the same smooth, rounded shape placed across the field like bumps in fabric. I climbed one. At the top, the wind grew stronger. The smell in the air changed. Overly clean chemicals, laundry detergent, something like a nursing home, familiar but artificial. Then I saw her, the woman. The only memory I had, she stood on the plain below. My chest tightened so hard it hurt. Her golden hair covered her face and flowed in the wind like a banner. She wore a perfectly fitted suit, a clean white dress shirt, a dark tie knotted flawlessly, a charcoal jacket tailored to her body. Her pants were not too loose, not too tight, not too long, not too short. Every detail was exact. Her shoes shone like black mirrors. Her fingers played with round, dark chrome cuff pins at her wrists. Her hair burned in that strange place like a torch in a cave, like fire in freezing weather, familiar and distant at the same time. She was beautiful, or maybe she was beauty itself. I began walking toward her. Through a split in her hair, I saw a smile. My heart softened. Then she turned away. Her hands dropped to her sides and she began walking away from me. I did not know where she was going, but she moved with purpose. Maybe she needed to leave. Maybe she needed to get away from me. The warmth in my chest froze. She crossed the hill and disappeared into the tall grass. I was alone again. Kick, kick, tick. I turned. 2 tall objects stood behind me where nothing had been before. A blue school locker and a grandfather clock. The ticking made my skin crawl like insects moving under it. The clock seemed to beckon me toward the locker the way a bully might beckon a smaller child behind the school. I obeyed. I climbed into the narrow space and fell out the other side into a hallway lined with countless blue lockers. I was in a school now. Immediately, the air filled with hate, not fresh anger, but old hate, regret, insecurity, pain. It moved through the building like black fog. The hallway stretched endlessly in both directions. Dust and forgotten pencils lay along the walls. Spiders watched from their webs. By then, I was used to the feeling of being watched. I walked. I passed a bathroom and smelled cigarettes and tears. I stepped inside. The stalls were covered with scratched words, cruel words, dirty words, every horrible thing children say to each other when they are trying to survive their own pain by giving some of it away. Cigarette ash trailed from yellow toilets to a cracked sink. The walls told stories nobody had listened to. Anxiety, shame, fear, teachers who looked away, assignments weighing children down like concrete shoes in a bottomless lake. I remembered something then. I hated school. I left the bathroom and continued down the hall until I reached an open doorway leading into a lunchroom. Inside, only one light was on. It shone like a spotlight onto a red plastic seat. On the seat sat one of her cuff pins. I picked it up and held it in my palm. Her perfume lingered in the air. Fresh flowers, cleanliness, then the sweetness turned bitter. She was gone. I would never see her again. The thought arrived with terrible certainty. Had she left me? Had I driven her away? I did not know. The ticking continued somewhere behind me. She must be busy, I whispered, though I did not believe it. I sat down because my legs could no longer hold me. The lunchroom felt like a place built for education and turned into a factory for misery. I sat for what felt like hours with nothing in my mind but her. Gone, gone, gone. I rubbed my eyes until they stung. Shh. I looked up. A face stared at me. Old, sagging skin, bulging red eyes, white hair hanging in tatters over its face, yellow teeth gnashing together. I heard bones stretching skin. Its eyes were full of fury, authority, and entitlement. I blinked. The school was gone. I stood in a factory. Machines roared around me, motors whirred, wires ran like veins through cracks in the concrete floor. The air smelled of hot metal and oil. Conveyor belts moved overhead, carrying objects no human hand should have made. I did not know if I had entered a new world or if this was still part of the same one. Somewhere down a hallway, metal clanged. Then someone screamed. I walked toward it. Above me, creatures perched among the steel supports. Gargoyles made from scraps and copper wire. Wings of saw blades. Feet made of iron rings welded to pipes. Cogs turned in their backs, bending wire spines. Copper beaks chattered like frozen teeth. Red shards of car taillights glowed as their eyes. They watched me, their arms twitched as I passed, scraping metal against metal and throwing sparks. I kept my eyes down and followed the screams. What I found was a man in a chair. He was naked, no ropes held him, no straps, instead bolts pierced through his wrists and thighs, pinning him to the chair. They spun slowly inside his flesh. His fingers wriggled, his toes curled in agony. A paddle struck his back. Cracked mechanical arms made of rods, cogs, and copper wires swung paddles wrapped in razor wire. They hit him again and again, tearing already welted skin. Blood ran down his body. His long hair hid most of his face, but one eye stared through a gap in the strands, wild and wet with pain. The factory existed for one purpose: to torment him. A door creaked open to my left, beyond cranks and steaming pipes. I left him there. I left him in that prison of metal and memory. As I walked away, I thought the factory inside his mind must have been worse than any beating. Then I was back on the porch of the floating house. The sky had turned pink and fiery. The clouds were ash gray and dripping cinders. I looked left, endless water. I looked right, endless water. I gripped the wet edge of the porch and leaned over. The woman stared back at me from beneath the surface. Her body was bloated and rotting. I stumbled backward. Then I looked up. A hand pointed at me from the sky. It was enormous, larger than any mountain, almost the size of a planet. The finger had rotting skin the color of old bone, stretched tight over the joints as if vacuum sealed. Where the fingernail should have been, there were thousands of spinning clocks. The air filled with static. My eyes vibrated in my skull. Blood ran from my nose. A tiny cut on one of the god-sized knuckles poured a waterfall of blood into the ocean below, staining the waves red. This thing was beyond me, beyond humanity, beyond time. I knew it in my gut. My teeth shifted in my gums. My tongue curled painfully in my mouth. Without knowing why, I raised my hand and mirrored its pose. Then its eye opened. There are no words in any human language for what was inside that socket. My sight went black. My body went numb. And then I saw through its eyes, it saw all of time at once. Native people fishing in clear rivers. Soldiers running through desert fire. The first man and first woman. Stars exploding into existence. A young woman being mauled by a wall of flesh. A bony humanoid wearing a coat of skin. A city made of stars. Countless points of view from trillions of beings, some human and some not. Billions of years of memory poured into me. My nervous system began to fail. I lost feeling in my toes, then my feet, then my legs. I collapsed forward and fell into the deep water. I could not feel my body. The last thing I saw was the woman opening her mouth. Inside it was the same impossible eye. Then I woke in my bed, drenched in sweat. My memories were back. My family, my parents, old birthday parties, school, my hometown. All the ordinary pieces of a life had returned, but they no longer felt safe. They felt stained. I sat there panting in the dark, asking myself what had happened. Something beyond me had reached into my dreams, or maybe it had pulled me somewhere while I slept. I tried to go back to bed, but my body refused. My brain still buzzed like a live wire. Weeks passed and I still did not understand. So I took it as a sign and went back to my hometown. My parents had passed away long ago, but the town was still there. When I drove past the welcome sign, I felt it immediately. A presence. Not one ghost, not one memory. Thousands of experiences clinging to the roots beneath the soil. So many good, but far too many bad. The lives we live cling to places like a sickness. One terrible memory can spoil 100 happy ones. One betrayal can rot years of love. One frightening moment can become stronger than every ordinary joy that came before it. I drove past the old mall. I remembered getting ice cream there with my family. But the strongest memory was not ice cream. It was the creepy Easter Bunny mascot that had scared me as a child. I passed my old school. I remembered friends and laughter, but first came the bullies. The cruel teachers. The bathrooms that smelled of cigarettes and tears. Maybe memories stain places. Maybe not only for us. Maybe they stain the fabric beneath everything, the atoms that hold reality together. Maybe even if we forget, the place remembers. Or maybe I am losing my mind. My eyes still vibrate when I try to sleep. Whenever I walk near old buildings, I feel as though I am sinking. The thing showed me something I was never meant to see. The thread used to sew reality together, memory. I have seen more in my 35 years of life than armies of men should see across 1,000 lifetimes. I saw the rotten history of the world, the devils made by suffering, beasts unknown to reality. I believe that thing feeds on the bad experiences of existence. Pain fattens it, fear strengthens it. Hatred gives it shape. One day, one of the clocks in its nail will stop. When that happens, it will have stripped so much from existence that reality will begin to unravel. It showed me our fate. All our sins will fatten that God until it opens its teeth and tears the land apart. That one memory has ruined every other memory I have. I can't live inside my own mind anymore. My eyes are going numb, and I think I am going blind. I hear whispers in languages that do not belong to Earth. I know I will never dream again. I know I will never think normally again. I am too cowardly to end it, because I am afraid that if I die, I may see that God again. If it was a God. Goodbye to this world. I believe I will be catatonic within a month. May the town you live in and the home you sleep in be stained with love. It showed me that the bad outweighs the good, but maybe you can look beyond that. Maybe you can make enough good memories to soften the dark ones. I hope you do. My name is Wilbur Kane. Please do not let my last words stain your life forever. Story 5. My brother Will had been trying to kill me since we were children. That sounds dramatic when I say it out loud, but in my family it was almost normal. We grew up in a house where love was conditional, money was God, and violence was just another language spoken at the dinner table. If you wanted attention, you earned it. If you wanted affection, you performed for it. If you wanted the inheritance, you survived long enough to claim it. Will was Daddy's favorite. That was the first sin. He was handsome in the cold, polished way rich boys are taught to be handsome. Sharp jaw, perfect smile, private school posture, eyes that looked soft only when he wanted something. Everyone loved Will. Teachers, nurses, family friends, our fathers, business partners. The staff, even the dogs loved him, which always seemed unfair because dogs are supposed to be good judges of character. But I knew him. Will's first attempts on my life were sloppy, almost cute in hindsight. Foxglove leaves chopped too finely and mixed into my chili when we were 10. A little too much chlorine in my bathwater. A playful shove down the stairs during a charity fundraiser while reporters were busy taking photos of Daddy shaking hands with a senator. He used to smile afterward, not because he thought he had succeeded, because he enjoyed watching me realize what he had tried to do. Then there was Wen. Wen was a year younger than Will and somehow more unhinged. He had a quiet cruelty that made people underestimate him. Will liked performance. Arabella liked strategy. I liked revenge. Wen just liked seeing what would happen if he pushed something far enough. When I was 8, he tried to slice my throat with a silver letter opener from Daddy's study. He told our mother he was pretending to be a pirate. Mother believed him because believing him was easier than acknowledging the truth. And in our family, truth was only useful when it could be bought, buried, or weaponized. When you are born rich enough, actions do not have consequences. We knew that before we knew multiplication. From birth, the 4 of us understood we were special. Not special in the way ordinary parents tell their ordinary children. Special in the way oil heirs, weapons contractors, and old political families are special. Special because our name opened doors and closed investigations. Special because teachers smiled through fear. Special because our father's lawyers could make any problem disappear before breakfast. We also knew we had to fight to inherit Daddy's fortune, not compete, fight. If we ruined something, we blamed someone else. If someone talked, we paid them. If money didn't work, we found another way. Wen killed a classmate in his sophomore year. I don't know all the details. I know there was a lake house, a party, pills, a broken railing, and a boy whose parents screamed until our mother made one 5-minute phone call. By the next week, the boy's name had been removed from school records, yearbook drafts, and local news archives. His family moved away. The whole thing became a rumor, then a joke, then nothing. That was power. Arabella was the youngest. She was also the smartest. She played people like cards, and by 12, she could make grown adults apologize for mistakes they hadn't made. She had gold hair, glassy eyes, perfect skin, and a voice so sweet it made people lean closer even when she was lying to them, especially when she was lying to them and me. I wasn't better. I was the stereotypical rich bitch, and I knew it. I learned early that beauty was useful. Cruelty was expected, and guilt was something poor people had because they couldn't afford lawyers. I wore designer clothes to court-mandated volunteer events and smiled in photos beside children whose hospitals my father donated to after his companies poisoned their water. As long as we made donations, we could get away with anything. Zero consequences made killing each other easier. Zero consequences meant zero empathy. When we were 16, Arabella tried to burn us all alive. Not just us. The estate, too. She locked 3 of the West Wing exits, poured accelerant through the lower hallway, and lit a match with the calm expression of someone testing a perfume sample. If one of the maids hadn't smelled smoke and screamed, the entire DeVere family might have gone up in flames before dinner. Daddy was furious. Not because she had tried to kill us, because she had risked damaging the paintings. He called us into his office that night, after the firefighters left. We stood in a line before his desk, smelling of smoke, chemicals, and expensive shampoo. The office was all dark wood, old leather, hunting trophies, and paintings of dead ancestors who looked just as disappointed as he did. Going against Daddy meant consequences, real ones. Not prison, not punishment, worse. Cards revoked, trust payments frozen, cars taken away, staff instructed not to answer your calls, doors closed, invitations withdrawn. In our world, love was negotiable, but access was everything. So I pasted on a smile and said, "Sorry, Daddy." Daddy looked at Will. "William, sorry." Wen said nothing. His arms were folded, his eyes fixed on the ceiling like he was too bored to participate in his own life. Arabella stood silently at the end of the line, still holding a charred matchstick between 2 manicured nails. Daddy watched us for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Hold hands," he said. "Now." We stared at him. He did not raise his voice. He never had to. We obeyed, reluctantly. I grabbed Arabella's hand. Her skin was cold, almost damp. She snatched Will's hand with her other one. Will reached for Wen, and Wen let out the longest, most dramatic sigh I had ever heard before accepting it. It was humiliating. My blood boiled. My face burned. We were 16, armed with credit cards, lawyers, and enough emotional damage to start a religion. And our father was making us hold hands like toddlers in church. Arabella drove the heel of her $800,000 custom stiletto into my toe the second Daddy looked away. I did not react. Will dug his nails into Wen's palm hard enough to draw blood. Wen smiled at him. The two of them turned their faces toward Daddy with perfect porcelain expressions, all wide smiles and obedient eyes, while quietly trying to hurt one another as much as possible. Daddy leaned back in his chair, his lips curved. That wasn't hard now, was it? He was old by then, not normal old, not grandfather old. Daddy was ancient in a way that felt obscene. His skin hung loose and thin over sharp bones. His hands were spotted and veined. His eyes had sunk deep into his face, but they still burned with something cruel and alert. He looked less like a man and more like a corpse that had decided death was for other people. I expected him to be 6 feet under by my junior year. He leaned forward slowly, the leather of his chair creaking beneath him. "I want my children to always be together," he crooned. The words were soft, almost loving, but his tone carried a terrible authority, the kind none of us could disobey. Not then. Maybe not ever. So we made an unspoken pact. When Daddy finally died, the killing game would continue. No lawyers, no staged accidents, no half measures. The moment our father breathed his last, we would finish what we had started as children. But Daddy didn't die when we expected. He lived and lived. He was 98 years old when it finally happened. By then, we were 24. 8 years had passed since that night in his office. 8 years is enough time for hatred to change shape. It doesn't disappear, not in a family like ours, but it settles. It cools. It becomes part of the furniture. Somewhere along the way, I had developed something dangerously close to attachment. I cared that Will was engaged. His fiancée was too good for him, obviously, but I cared that he smiled differently around her. Less like a predator, more like a man pretending hard enough that maybe one day it might become true. I cared that Arabella and her girlfriend were trying IVF, Arabella talked about it like a business acquisition, all statistics and doctors and timelines. But once, when she thought no one was watching, I saw her standing in a baby store holding a tiny yellow sweater against her chest. I cared about Wen and his stupid private island full of stray cats. He had bought the island as a joke, then accidentally developed a soul for animals with eye infections and missing tails. He named every single one of them after Roman emperors and cried when Caligula died. So when Mom called me crying to tell me Daddy was gone, I felt something I did not expect. Lost. Wrong. Not grief, exactly. I had never loved him enough for that. It was more like the ground shifting under a house I had spent my entire life trying to escape. Then I remembered the pact. I went to my bedroom and retrieved the gun I had hidden when I was 16. Back then, I had promised myself I would shoot my siblings dead the moment Daddy croaked. I kept the gun wrapped in silk beneath a false panel in my closet. Loaded but untouched for 8 years. When I held it again, it felt both familiar and ridiculous. Like picking up a childhood toy. A lethal one will immediately try to kill me when I arrived at his apartment. To be fair, I had come with a gun pointed between his eyes, but Will had never been stupid. He opened the door with a kitchen knife already pressed against the curve of my throat. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. His eyes flicked down to my gun. Mine flicked to the knife. "You got slower," he whispered. "You got predictable." I said, behind him, the apartment looked like a war zone. Wen sat on the sofa with his legs crossed, nursing a bruised eye and holding an ice pack to his cheek. Arabella leaned against the wall, a cigarette between her lips, twirling a lock of golden hair around one finger, or what was left of it. Half her ponytail had been ripped out, her dress was torn, a long wound ran down one arm, bleeding onto the marble floor. Will's living room was destroyed. The couch had been tipped over. Glass glittered across the floor. A lamp lay broken in the corner. Blood splattered the marble in several places, dark and fresh. Apparently, I was late. "Wait," Will whispered as I tried to angle my gun past the knife. "Ruby, wait." His voice was different. Not soft, not kind, but urgent. I let my hand drop slightly. After a moment, he let the knife fall to the floor. It landed with a clean metallic clatter. "Dad left us a letter," he said. His breath was warm against my face. He held up an envelope sealed with Daddy's signature mark. "Before we do anything rash, we should probably read it." I looked past him at Wen and Arabella. Wen shrugged like he had not just been trying to murder at least one of us. Arabella exhaled smoke through her nose. I lowered the gun. "Right," I said. Will stepped back with a grin that almost looked like relief. "Then we open it together." That phrase landed strangely in the room. Together. We gathered around the ruined coffee table like children waiting for a bedtime story. I kept the gun in my hand. Wen kept a lighter tucked between his fingers. Arabella had a blade hidden somewhere because Arabella always had a blade hidden somewhere. Will stood closest to the door because Will always needed an exit. The envelope tore open easily. Inside was a letter folded so neatly it looked like a tiny pocket square. I watched impatiently as Will unfolded it. My hand twitched toward the knife hidden in the back pocket of my jeans. I told myself I would let him read the letter first. Then I would kill him. Then Arabella if she wasn't faster. "My dear children," Will read. Daddy's handwriting was barely legible, all thin loops and black ink, like a spider had crawled across the page. "My final wish is for you to be together." Will smiled as he read that part. For one fragile second, something changed in the room. Maybe it changed in all of us. The old animal urge in my bones began to fade. The need to kill, to win, to survive, Daddy's final command, loosened its grip. Will let out a breath. Wen lowered his lighter. Arabella's eyes flicked toward me, and I saw the smallest crack in her perfect expression. Maybe we had outgrown it. Maybe Daddy was dead, and with him, the sick game he built for us. Will continued reading. So I have organized a procedure to be conducted the second I take my last breath. His voice broke. He stopped smiling. What the fuck? The words seemed to crawl across the page. Do not worry. I read aloud, my mouth going dry. I have tested it on animals and then human subjects. The full merge of the four of you. Your bodies and minds melded together. That is my last wish. Silence swallowed the room. For once, none of us had anything clever to say. Then Wen grabbed the letter out of my hand. No, he hissed. He flicked his lighter open. This never fucking happened. The flame danced under the paper. We never read it. The thing never existed. The corner caught fire. Black curled across Daddy's handwriting. The letter burned, shrinking into glowing ash while the four of us watched the last command of our father disappear. Arabella looked sick. I had never seen her look sick before. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. Her fingers were cold, just like they had been in Daddy's office 8 years earlier. Only this time, she was not trying to hurt me. Then the apartment door flew open. A man in a suit stepped inside. Over the suit, he wore a medical smock. Behind him came several people in surgical masks, rolling cases and carrying equipment I did not recognize. The suited man smiled widely as if he had arrived for a party. The DeVere siblings, he said brightly. Ah, good. You're all here. Will grabbed for the knife on the floor. One of the masked people raised something small and metallic. Will dropped before his fingers touched the handle. Not dead. Not yet. A dart stuck out of his neck. Wen lunged, but another dart hit him in the chest. He staggered backward, knocking over a chair, his mouth opening in silent fury before his knees gave out. Arabella squeezed my hand once, hard. Then she pulled me behind her and threw her cigarette at the nearest masked figure. The cherry hit their face shield and sparked uselessly. A dart struck her arm. She turned to me, eyes wide. Run, she said. I raised my gun. The suited man did not flinch. Something pierced my shoulder. A cold burn spread through my arm. My fingers went numb. The gun slipped from my hand and hit the marble. The man in the suit pulled on light blue gloves already stained scarlet. He held up a syringe filled with glowing blue liquid, examining it like a priest holding a sacrament. I'm here to fulfill your father's last wish, he said. My legs failed. I dropped to the floor beside Arabella. Across the room, Will was trying to crawl, leaving a smear of blood from his mouth. Wen lay on his back, eyes open, chest rising too slowly. The suited man stepped over the broken glass and stopped above me. He nodded, lips splitting into a grin. Ruby, he said, you will be the head. He crouched and brushed hair away from my face with gloved fingers. Your father was very specific, he said. He believed you had the strongest will. William, the strongest instinct. Wen, the strongest appetite. Arabella, the strongest mind. Together, he said, you would be perfect. The last thing I saw before the drug took me was Will reaching toward my hand. Not to hurt me, to hold it. I woke to screaming. At first, I thought the screaming came from the room. Then, I realized it was inside me. Not one scream, 4. My eyes opened, but they did not open correctly. The world appeared in pieces. Too wide, too sharp, too much. I saw the ceiling above me, but also the floor. I saw a surgical light burning white. I saw steel trays. I saw blood. I saw my own hand lying on the table beside me, but it was not only mine. I felt Wen rage. I felt Arabella calculating. And beneath them, under them, around them, I felt myself trying to remain myself. Ruby. My name was Ruby. I had to hold on to that. Something moved in my chest that was not supposed to be there. Someone else's breath, someone else's memory. Will at age 9, mixing crushed foxglove into chili with shaking fingers. Wen laughing by a lake under moonlight. Arabella hiding matches in the dollhouse. Me holding Daddy's hand at a gala, smiling while he whispered, never let them beat you. The memories crashed together, tangled and wet, until I could not tell which ones belonged to me. A voice above us said, "Integration is beginning." Our mouth opened. I felt it open, but I was not the only one controlling it. We screamed. The sound that came out was not mine, not Will's, not Wen's, not Arabella's. It was all of ours. One voice made from 4 ruined children. Somewhere in that impossible new darkness, Daddy's voice whispered with satisfaction, "Now hold hands."